definitely is about preparation. So making sure that you have a solid idea of your story and as much preparation as you can do beforehand. It's like a roadmap. So basically you can just sit down and drive. So for me, I wouldn't ever do a project like this without having my outlines, character sketches, without being able to sit down and write. Because the biggest challenge I faced, and this was about week 3 or 4, and then again week maybe 26, I forget, was getting confused. So at that point, I had a lot of characters I had lived for a very brief time in their lives. And so I would start to get like, okay, is this character in this book? No. Whoops. Let's go on. So I did that a couple times. But really, if you want to do some sort of marathon session, whether it's something like NaNoWriMo, which is writing a novel in a month, or trying to write a book in a week, you do have to have that preparation, because you don't want to have to go back and like if you write yourself in a corner, then you don't have time for that, really.
Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectives, and welcome to episode 428 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. In today's episode, I have an interview with Alison McBain. Alison is the recipient of over 13 awards for her own writing. She's also a ghostwriter who has penned over 24 books for clients, as well as an award-winning editor who's worked with both celebrity and New York Times bestselling authors. In 2024, she pursued a project called Author vs. AI, where her goal was to write a book a week for 52 weeks using no AI at all. Now, we talk about that project, how it went, how she prepared for it. We talk about her writing life and so much more. And that's coming up later in this episode. But first, let's hear a word about this episode's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by my affiliate link to Manuscript Report. Now, if you're looking for support and help with marketing your book, Manuscript Report really has you covered. The way it works is you load your manuscript up in PDF format, and within about half an hour, you'll get an email back that's an analytical look at your book. It will provide synopsis, sales copy. It will provide keywords. It will create trope map information for you and genre maps and the percentages. It will identify target audience details as well as pitches for each of those target audiences. It will write sales copy. It will even do a draft press release for you and list comparable titles. So you can, when you're pitching your book, can compare that or let booksellers, let librarians, let readers know it's this like that, or it's this versus that, or it's this with that, this meets that. It is a really invaluable tool. I've been using it myself, and just recently when I was hanging out with my friend Kevin J. Anderson, he got the rights back to some books from a publisher, and he's planning on doing a major release of them next year. And so I offered to take book 1 and load that into my account, Manuscript Report, and send it over to him. And he is so thrilled, and he's wanting to do the entire series and check it out for more. And this is somebody who's a New York Times bestseller with 190 novels out there. He's been doing this for decades. In the early 80s was when he published his first book. And he's really a fantastic writer and really good at creating sales copy, etc. But even an author of Kevin's caliber is finding Manuscript Report helpful. And you may find it helpful too. And if you want to save $5 off Manuscript Report, you can use the coupon code at checkout, MARK5. That's MARK5, the number 5. And just use that at checkout and save $5 off Manuscript Report. And you can check it out over at manuscriptreport.com. I'm going to forego comments for this episode because I want to just do a quick personal update and kind of get this out the door. I'm realizing it's chaotic. Liz and I are hosting the Aurora Awards this Sunday, August 10th, and that's at 5 p.m. Eastern. And we've hosted the Aurora Awards for, I think this will be our 4th or 5th time. Maybe it's our 4th time. I think we did it in 2020. We didn't do it in 2021, but we came back in 22, 23, and 24. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. We use StreamYard for this. It's a live event. And the nominees that are available will be in the green room in the back. And we have the envelopes that are sealed. The voting for the Aurora Awards has already happened, so the winners have already been determined. But we have the sealed envelopes with us, and we do the broadcast that way. We have special guests who pre-record the introductions to each of the categories, and they're usually read by past winners, so you get to see them, you get to hear a description of what that is, and then Liz and I will open the envelopes, and it's done that way because it's simpler to have us have the envelopes, and instead of, we're all over the world, and sometimes in different time zones. Often in different time zones. Canada has several different time zones because it's mostly Canadians that are participating in this. And it's a really, I find it a lot of fun, but it is a significant amount of work. Now, Liz does 90% of the heavy lifting on this. But because we pre-record, we add the visuals and the sort of the Aurora effects and the music and stuff like that into it, and pre-create a whole bunch of these videos. So it's this combination of us doing it live and the winners live, right, when they come up and do their acceptance speeches, but everything else is pre-recorded, including the Hall of Fame Awards, all the recipients, it's been pre-recorded. And one of the reasons we do that is sometimes people get really, really nervous doing it live, and the more factors you have with all the different people who are going to introduce the different categories, trying to do that live can be challenging, and we've done that in the past, so it's great to have those pre-recorded so you at least know those things are good to go. And Liz and I are scrambling as we finish off all of those videos and getting all that ready, but now we have to do the opening shtick, and that of course is a favorite of ours. Of course, we like being silly and doing some fun things, and we've done some really fun opening shticks. I can have links to them in the show notes at starkreflections.ca, but this year's opening shtick is Liz and I are going to record a parody song. And it was probably about a month or so ago where we were sitting in the kitchen and she was making dinner, and I was sitting at the counter talking to her when she was doing that. And we kind of talked through what Canadian song would we do and what would the parody be, and it have to have something to do with the Aurora Awards. And we went through probably a dozen, maybe 15 songs, like great Canadian songs. We were looking at lists of what are the all-time great Canadian songs, and what would the parody be? And we goofed around with a few of them, and then we landed on the one we're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what that is. You have to watch the Aurora Awards for it, and we're hoping to record that later today, which is I'm actually recording this on Friday, August 8th. I'm a little bit late in getting this out. It's just been chaotic lately and trying to get stuff out, but I always get an episode out every Friday. Often finish the episode on Thursday to get it out for Friday, but it's coming out. But we'll be doing that, and I have a book event tomorrow. It's in Hamilton, Ontario, and so it's August 9th. I'm going to be at the Coles at Lime Ridge Mall with Patrick McPhee, who's the Canadian winner of this year's Writers of the Future, with his story 30 Minutes or It's a Paradox. So I'm going there with Patrick. He'll be signing copies of Writers of the Future as one of the judges of Writers of the Future. I'll be signing that book as well. I'll also be there signing my book Haunted Hamilton, and I think they have copies of One Hand Screaming. And we have some special prizes available for people, gift cards for a local pizza place, because we thought, hey, themed in with the pizza story that Patrick has. And I'm also giving away, I'm going to have a QR code so people can download either the ebook or audiobook of The Pizza Man, my horror story. So that's going to occupy quite a bit of Saturday. And then, of course, Sunday, Liz and I have the award. So we're hoping to get that song recorded and the video, etc., for that done today, sometime. So I am scrambling to get this out the door and even get my author newsletter out the door, because I want to include this event, and then I want to talk about being in Calgary for When Words Collide, which I actually fly out to next Thursday, which means, again, I'm going to be scrambling to get that next episode out. So personal update wise, wow, so busy, but a good kind of busy. But in any case, that's kind of it for the personal update. I do want to say a huge shout out and thank you to my patrons who support this podcast over at patreon.com/starkreflections, as well as my coffee buddies who support me over at buymeacoffee.com/Mark Leslie. Your support does mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for that support. Of course, in supporting the podcast, just by listening, you are supporting. So thank you so much for listening. But that's it for the introductory matter. I'm going to roll the bumper, and we're going to get into this conversation with Alison. Hey, Alison, welcome to the Stark Reflections podcast.
Thanks so much for having me here. It's great to be here.
Well, it's always great to chat with a kindred spirit, somebody who does it all, who does all the things in publishing. So, okay, so you're so varied. I mean, you're an editor, you're a ghostwriter, you've written your own things, you've sold fiction to publishers, you've sold short fiction and articles. You've done so many different things as well. We will be talking about you going up against AI. But before we get into that, so how did Alison McBain end up where she is today? Like, where did it all start for you?
I guess I'm just curious. I like to try everything. So because you never know what is going to stick.
Right.
So that is probably why I have such an eclectic past in terms
I
of
like that.
publishing.
I like
Yeah,
that.
I
It's a
mean,
curiosity that killed the writer. Okay.
exactly. Well, hopefully not.
Well, actually, it's a curiosity that killed a lot of trees, more like.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So when did it start for you? Was that something you've always wanted to do, is writing, or was the curiosity amongst different vocations as well?
I'm one of those people who, since I could first, form words, I wanted to be a writer. So my first written story, according to my parents, I don't actually remember this,
Okay.
was when I was 4, and I wrote a short story, a horror one, of course, about the monster in the closet, the terrible monster. So
Which we know is still there.
yeah, yeah, still
Yes.
there.
No.
Exactly. I tell my kids.
Have to be careful, yes. And then I guess just through school and everything, you just continue to write and sort of explore that creativity.
Yeah, actually, that's where I sort of took a left turn, and I thought eventually I would, be a teacher, professor at a university or something, and because it seemed like the best job ever. You
Right.
teach kids, you get to influence future generations, and then you get the summers off to write.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be fabulous, but life took me on a few different paths. I never did end up in the classroom.
No, it's funny. That was the thought I had as well. I was like, well, I could teach because I liked books and I liked reading. I could teach English, English literature at least. But and that didn't work out for me. My grades weren't high enough to get into teachers college, so that was my challenge. Back in the day, it was difficult. You had to actually be a straight A student, and I was not.
Oh, me neither. There are too many other things to learn outside the classroom.
So I remember my very first published story. It was a short story that was published. Do you remember your very first published piece?
Yeah, actually, it was through my college journal. And that's probably the only time I took a creative writing class. I took one, and my teacher at the time was very encouraging, very wonderful, and said, "Wow, you have some great stories. Can I take these and actually submit them to the college journal?" I was like,
Wow,
"Okay." And so
cool.
we did, and they got published, which was awesome. How about you?
Oh, mine was after years of rejection with markets. I
Yeah.
was I was graduating university when my first story was finally published after collecting
Nice.
hundreds of those rejections. So, but that was back in the early days when before the internet and It was mailing my submissions out to publishers. So
Oh, I remember that. I remember mailing stuff out and then just waiting at the mailbox, just waiting for something to come back.
and what about the first book? Now I know you're traditionally published, but you've also done your own publishing as well. What was your first book, and how did you release it?
My first book was called The Rose Queen, and it's a fantasy YA retelling of Beauty and the Beast, which I love. That's my favorite fairy tale.
Okay.
And I did the traditional thing. So I didn't get published traditionally, but I sent out my query letter to agents and got some wonderful feedback, but ultimately did not get an agent for that book. So I decided to go ahead and self-publish because
Okay.
I love the story so much and I wanted to put it out there. And it actually did pretty well. Got a few awards along the way. Lot of people seem to really love that story as much as I did.
Oh, wow. And it's not the only one of your books that has won awards. You like I was on your website, and I mean it's heavy in awards. Like if you were walking around with medals, like that would just be like really difficult, right? Like, ultra training.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I figured, especially with my last book, which was traditionally published, I thought, you know what? Like, let's take a stab at it. Let's see, what not just readers think, but let's send it out. And so, working with my fabulous publisher, Woodhull Press, we sent out my book to a number of different awards, and a lot of other people liked it again as much as I did, which was very, very wonderful to, it's a great feeling
Yeah,
to get that recognition. Did I do it for the awards? No, but it was wonderful, and
never
I'm very
hurts.
thankful. Yeah.
Yeah, and what was that? What was the name of that novel? Or
It's called The New Empire. It's a alternate
ah,
history. So
right
set
behind you
back in
there.
the 1700s. Yes.
Awesome. How is that experience different for you then? Like obviously you're working with the publisher to decide where to send it for contests as opposed to doing it on your own. How was it easy enough to adapt between the two different, I guess I guess logistical operations?
Yeah, definitely. Because when I self-published my first book, that was before I had worked as an editor a lot. So I was used to doing things myself, shall I say.
Okay.
But when I got my last publishing deal, after that, I had already started my own magazine, my own press. So I was used to working with authors, working with editors. So it was a very comfortable transition. And I loved having a whole team behind me. That's one of the beauties of, working with a traditional publisher. It's not just you anymore. You have a whole bunch of wonderful creative input helping you along the way, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course, definitely. So this magazine you started, what was the genesis of that? And what is the magazine, and what was it how did that come about?
Well, it's called ScribesMICRO, and as you can guess from the title, it's about very, very small pieces of fiction and poetry, 100 words.
Oh, wow.
And
Oh, okay.
yeah, very short. um, well, myself and the other editors who are involved, we started it during the pandemic because
Okay.
before that we had been publishing a few anthologies through my press, and at that time, during the pandemic, people weren't really very excited about getting stuff in the mail or going out to stores. So
Yes.
we thought, okay, let's start an online magazine so we can still be involved in editing and in writing, and then people can just go online and read it. And it got way more popular than we thought it would because, it's short. People can just read it really fast on their phone, like on their commute to work.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So we were actually surprised at how much people liked it. So we went on and started our own award too for 100 word stories,
Really?
which we're now in our third year, and the contest is about to start next month. So yeah, it's very exciting, and we've got so much wonderful feedback from authors, and we're actually we've published the first works of a number of authors, and that is such a wonderful feeling to help
Yeah.
brand new authors get their words out into the world.
So for listeners who are excited that, oh, there's a contest, there's a market for short fiction, so it's exactly 100 words?
We give them a bit of leeway, so it's 90 to 110 words. So,
Gotcha. Okay,
because
so roughly, all
sometimes
right.
you can't hit the mark exactly.
And does that include the title?
No, Title
Oh,
is separate. So if you want to sneak in a few more words to an extra long
there you go. Yeah.
title, I shouldn't say that, but
So how does a writer then submit to this magazine?
through our website, it's fairfieldscribes.com because the organizing group behind it, we were the Fairfield Scribes Writing Group, and then we
Right.
started publishing. So, or you can just Google ScribesMICRO and it will pop up.
And then there's like sort of guidelines as to what you're looking for, what you're not looking for, when the timelines are for various submissions, I imagine.
Yep, exactly. We're usually open most of the year. We are closing down the summer just to read contest entries,
Yeah.
but for most of the rest of the year, we're open to submissions.
Cool.
And yeah, it's free to submit. You do get paid, but it's a small amount. It's $1 per story because it's a small
Yeah.
story.
And that's hey, it's money, right?
Yeah, the contest has bigger cash prizes, but
Yeah. So how
our
does it
regular
tell me a bit about the contest then? Is the contest part of the regular submission process or is that a separate one?
Nope, it's a separate, completely separate. Although the editors are all also involved with the contest.
Right.
And our top prize for the top story is $250, which is,
Wow.
probably the most you'll ever get paid per word.
Well, for fiction, yeah, for a
For
100
100
word story,
words.
that's a chunk of change there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but it's a lot of fun, and you get some really beautiful moments because 100 words is basically a snapshot
Yeah.
into a story. So,
And it's really a challenge for writers who've never written short to try to capture that full, of the full essence of the scene or the moment or whatever it is you want to convey in a short space. It's what I love about micro shorts and poetry even is his saying, okay, I need to take everything I'm thinking about and push it into something that's going to create an experience for someone that's not a novel or even a 1,000 word short story, which is relatively short.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it takes a certain skill, which is way different from writing a novel.
So cool. But yeah, you've got books and articles and fiction you've had published all over the place. But you also took on a challenge last year that I'd love to dig into a little bit. So you took on the machines?
I tried. As you know, AI is on everyone's mind, and it's something that creatives from all walks of life are worried about creeping into our creative sphere. So I decided, you know what? As one human, I can take on AI and try to write almost as fast as AI, but hopefully much better. And I
Right.
used no AI at all during the whole project.
So this was called Author versus AI.
Mhm.
And so you'd set this up. Was this like a thing that took place over the all of 2024 or a particular time frame? How did that work?
It took place during the last 8 months of the year.
Okay.
Originally, so I have to put this out there. My original idea was to do a full year, 52 weeks, writing a book a week. I did fall short.
Wow. Wow.
So I didn't complete the full year. I did do 8 months and produced 34 books.
34
Um,
books. Wow.
34 books, yeah. So hopefully at some point in the future, I will be able to take on this project again and complete the full year. That's my eventual goal, but I do need a break.
Well,
I
that
wrote
sounds
way
seems
too much last year.
exhausting. Like I don't know how many
Yeah.
weeks are in 8 months. I haven't done the math, but was that like 32 weeks or how was that? How many weeks are in 8 months?
It was 34 because I had 34
34.
books. So
Oh, 34.
that's
Sorry, I
only,
can't. Yeah.
yeah, I
See,
don't know if it was exactly 8 months. It might have been a little bit shorter or a little bit
right.
longer,
Yeah.
but it was 34 books total.
Wow, that's intense. And I mean, I know you don't have 34 books published, so I think there's another lesson there as well in terms of, yeah, okay, I've got the first draft. That doesn't mean the book's going to be published a book a week, right?
No, that's true. Yeah. Originally, because I don't know about you, but I'm always more ambitious than I can actually
Yeah, of
produce.
course.
So I was like, of course, I'm going to publish them all right afterwards. No, I mean, yes, there's rewriting, there's editing, there's, sending them out.
Yeah.
I do have some publishers who are interested in them. So
Oh, that's
that's,
fantastic.
I'm ahead of the curve, I guess. But at the same time, yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into the process after writing. First drafts are never final drafts.
Well, I remember there was I think it was a challenge. I don't know if it was based on Ray Bradbury or something, where the idea was to write a story a week. Yeah, and then that way you have 52 stories that you could submit. And maybe
I think
not
it
all of
was Ray
them.
Bradbury.
Yeah, was
Yeah.
that Bradbury? So it was the
Yeah.
same, but instead of a short story, you're writing novellas and novels, right?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So you did what, but you won a contest. It was a 3-day novel writing contest. You won that contest, didn't you?
I came in third in the
Okay.
contest. That was
All right.
actually the first time I had entered, which was a lot of fun. A friend of mine who helped me come up with the concept of author versus AI was like, "Have you heard of the 3-day novel contest?" I was like, "No, what's that?" Uh, and he was like, "Well, this would be a great, sort of practice run, before you start your author versus AI
Oh,
project. See if you
wow.
can
Okay.
write a novel, or it's a novella, a novelette." In
Yeah.
3 days. This contest has been around for decades, so I did, and I was, thrilled to hear that I had made, the long list, the short list, and then came in third. It was
Wow.
fantastic. Yeah.
Congratulations. What was the name of that novel so people can check it out? Or novella?
Novella, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not published yet. Only
Okay.
the first place
Oh,
entry gets published, but it's called
okay.
Duel,
Okay.
and right now it is out
It's
for
out for
submission. So
submission right now?
hopefully, yeah, so
Oh,
hopefully
cool.
people will be able to read it shortly.
Wow. I love the fact that you've embraced both parts of the world. Like you're submitting the novel or the novels or the works to various publishers, but you're also doing some of it yourself. And then you're also helping other writers. I mean, how many heads do you have in order to wear all those hats?
I was going to say I'm a mom. I have
Oh,
infinite.
say no more. Say no more. And eyes in the back of your head, of course.
Exactly, right?
So, how do you divide up that time? Because obviously you have to do reading for submissions for the magazine. You also ghostwrite for other writers. Is that as well part of your
Yep.
resume?
Yep. I've ghostwritten over 2 dozen books for various
Sorry,
writers.
how many?
Over 2 dozen.
I thought you said 2000. I went
Oh no, not 2,000. 2 dozen.
two
Sorry,
dozen. So
I
okay,
was,
with 24 books. Wow.
yeah.
And then these 34 were your books. They weren't you
Yep.
ghostwriting books for other people.
Nope.
So that was on top of that work. Wow, that is amazing. Was it nonfiction, fiction, or was it a mixture?
For the ghostwriting is fiction, and for my author versus AI project, same. I'm
Okay, all right.
actually mostly for nonfiction. I just do short pieces. I have never attempted a longer work like a memoir, but that's on my list. One of my
Nice.
goals when I was a kid, because I love to read everything. I love to read all genres, and I love to write in all genres. I was like, the conventional wisdom, from a marketing perspective is pick one or two genres and stick with them because your readers will follow you. If you have horror readers, they're going to read your horror work, so keep on writing in horror, right? But I always thought, I love to read everything. Why can't I write everything? So part of my author versus AI project and part of my ghostwriting is I write in every genre. So I have books from science fiction, literary, fantasy, romance, mystery. Why not try it all?
I love that. Is there one that you tend to gravitate to by default?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like saying my favorite kid, though. No,
Yeah, it's
I'm just kidding.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love fantasy and I also love romance. So, I mean, which again, romantasy is the hottest genre right
Right
now. So
now,
I'm
so
like,
you
oh,
can
I'm so
have both of them.
lucky.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and then I guess the other thing too is so there's I'm going to go back to the 34 books and that you did in 34 weeks. Did you I mean did you have in mind what you wanted to write an outline of some sort, or did you pants the entire experience, or was it some weird combination?
No, it was definitely preparation. So I started out writing. When I wrote my first book, I was definitely a pantser. I was like, oh no, gotta let the creativity flow, and the character will run away from me. And it still does. They still do sometimes when I'm writing. But for this, and especially for ghostwriting, you have to be prepared. So you have to, when you're working with a client, you have to have an outline that you turn in. You have to um, sometimes do character sketches. You have to pretty much know everything inside and out before you actually start writing. So I applied that same talent skill that I had learned doing from ghostwriting to my own work. So I had chapter by chapter outlines of every single book before I
Wow.
started. I had character sketches of every book before I started. And I also, one thing I like to do is I'm a very visual person. So I like to pull images from the internet and have those like, like this is my main character. This is what they look like. So I can have like a visual when I'm writing
Right.
them. So I like to be as prepared as possible before I actually sit down and start chapter one.
So I want to look at the logistics of that then. So 34 weeks in a row of writing a novel a week. Did that mean that did you take a week to outline each of them in the previous 34 weeks, or was the outlining process a little bit more condensed, or I'm just curious about how that worked.
It took me about 6 months
Okay.
from when I first started. Uh, I knew I was going to work on this project to when I started. And I started out with genres basically because I knew I wanted to write in every single
Yeah.
genre that I could possibly think of. So I started
Okay.
out with the genres, and then each genre I did sort of like, the back cover copy of a book to sort of outline the idea, and then I start built from there and did my chapter by
Oh,
chapter outline. So I just sort of, yeah, maybe about a week for each book, a couple days to a week to
right.
sort of build it from scratch. And then I
Now,
had 52 ideas going into this project. So I still have
um,
18 that I haven't
oh, I
written
love that. You've got that for the next round. Yeah. So
for the next round. Yeah.
34 books. I'm curious now, they're cross genres, but were there some that were, and this happens in romance a lot, they're part of the series because they're in the same town, the same family, or the same group of friends, or whatever it is, even though it's a different couple. Yeah, did you have any of those like series style books? So at least the work you put in to this one book help you kickstart the next one, or were they all standalones?
Yeah. Most were standalones, but I did do several series. So I did a fantasy comedy series, which was 2 books, and I did a couple of romance series, which were 2 to 3 books. Yeah, so not all of them were standalones. Most of them were though, because I wanted to hit as many genres as possible.
Yeah, oh, I love that. So, for any author who's thinking about either doing the 3 day novel challenge or maybe not as many weeks as you, maybe they do a full month, 4 books in 4 weeks, because you gotta walk before you can fly. What advice would you give to writers who are sort of preparing to try something like that out before they do the full marathon that you ran or the ultra marathon that you ran?
Well, it definitely is about preparation. So making sure that you have a solid idea of your story, and as much preparation as you can do beforehand. It's like a roadmap. So basically, you can just sit down and drive. So for me, I wouldn't ever do a project like this without having my outlines, character sketches, without being able to sit down and write. Because the biggest challenge I faced, and this was about week 3 or 4, and then again week maybe 26, I forget, was getting confused. So at that point, I had a lot of characters I had lived for a very brief time in their lives.
Right.
And so I would start to get like, okay, is this character in this book? No. Whoops. Let's go on. So I did that a couple times, but really, if you want to do some sort of marathon session, whether it's something like NaNoWriMo, which is writing a novel in a month, or trying to write a book in a week, you do have to have that preparation because you don't want to have to go back and like if you write yourself in a corner, then you don't have time for that really.
Wow. And how did you, I mean, you're a mom, so that alone speaks to the fact that your time is not your own. You have a lot of obligations and a lot of things coming at you all the time, which on its own is enough of a challenge. But how did you, let's say I'm going to write a book this week. How did you divide the time? Were there certain times per day where there was a don't disturb mom sign on the door, or you had to get out of the house? Like how did this operation work so that you could actually be successful with it?
Actually, the office that I'm speaking in from right now is outside the house. So
Okay,
that
all
that
right.
actually works. It's separate from from where my kids usually spend their time. And all my kids are going to school. My two oldest are teenagers. So they have their own lives. They don't want mom hanging around all
Right,
the
right, yeah.
time. Like as long as I throw some food at them, they're usually okay. They hang out with their friends. So they know that that I'm full-time freelancer, that I do my own work, and then I'm there for them, after school. Mostly I did my writing, the majority of my writing in the morning.
Okay.
I'm a fast writer. I can write up to 2,000 words an hour. Usually my comfortable speed is about 1,500 words.
Okay.
Yeah, so I can get, if you're looking for a book, I can write maybe 6,000, 7,000 words in the morning and then have time in the afternoon with my family and cleaning up the house and washing the dishes and all that fun stuff.
So you must break it into chunks then? Like, do you do sprints? Like, is it 20-minute sprints or do you just go the full hour?
Well, I just go. I get
Mhm.
lost, and
Okay.
there are times my kids would tell you there are times I would wander to the house, cook dinner, feed them, and obviously I'd be somewhere else. And they'd talk to me. I'd have a conversation with them. I'd go away, and I would have no recollection of what happened because I was off in some fantasy world, or
Right, right. Yeah, you're just
so they know what it means when I do that. But for the most part, they're okay with it. They're all creative. In fact, I love, 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 love that all my daughters are creative. My oldest wants to be an artist. My middle daughter is already a published author. She's
oh
had a
wow.
poem published in Kids Magazine. And my youngest wants to be a cartoonist. So I'm like,
Wow.
go for it. Do the creative things. All the creative things is
Oh,
wonderful.
I love that. I love that so much. So you talked about the space outside the home. Now I have some friends, I have a few different friends who have built on their property a separate building that's the writing office. Now, where I live in the world, difficult to go in the winter it's unless there's heat and insulation. But then also other folks who've actually rented some space. What is the logistic for you being outside of the home and in where you are right now, that office? Is that on the same property? Is it attached to the house but separate, or are you completely off-site?
No, I can see my door from here, the door to
Okay.
the house from here. Yeah, it was here when we moved in. So basically it's like a converted shed
Oh
that they
wow.
had as a sort of outside sitting room, the previous owners.
Okay.
And it has heat. I live in Alberta, so
Oh,
it does
you
get
need the
quite
heat.
cold.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So yeah, and there's definitely I have heaters in the winter when I come out here. But of course, yeah, when it gets too cold, I really don't want to come out here. So when we have the negative 40 days, I usually stay in. I have a separate desk in the house too that I can work from.
Right. But I guess the process of walking, I mean, it's nice and easy. So if something happens, you can pop right back over or take care of things easily. But I guess having that, does that help? Like separating yourself and saying, okay, I'm walking to the office now, even though it's only
Oh,
30, 40 steps maybe.
so much. It really does. I mean, there's that separation, and then you have your space. Like, I feel like writers are creatures of habit. I don't know about you, but I definitely am. So I like to have my same hot drink, I have my books here,
Right.
I have my keyboard set up here. So it's really lovely to have that and settle in and be like, okay, now is the time to write. It gives you that feeling.
Oh, I love that. And then I guess in terms of when you've got a novel on the go, you've got these specific times where you're gonna get so many words done, but then you also have clients you work with, right? You're editing, you're ghostwriting. Like, do you chunk them into batches of time, or does one day potentially see you working on multiple projects that way?
Sometimes multiple projects in a day, but usually, yeah, I do compartmentalize my time. So I might say, okay, Mondays are the days that I work on the magazine, and then
Okay.
maybe Tuesday through Thursday are client days, and then Friday through Sunday are my days.
Ah.
So I do, depending on when my deadlines are, what work I have on the burner, I might say, okay, I'm going to set aside this chunk of time.
And I think we were supposed to chat, was it on Friday? And then I was on a road trip that got extended. Thought I would be home, but I wasn't. And then we moved that to a Monday. So that potentially could mess up your schedule a little bit, right?
Oh no, I'm flexible. I
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the thing about juggling family and work and being a
Right.
freelancer. You have to be flexible. So sometimes stuff pops up and you adjust. Yeah. But I am happy to be here, whether it's Friday or Monday.
Friday or Monday.
It's
Well, thank you for that
exactly.
flexibility.
Yeah, of
So
course.
what's coming? What do you have coming up in the next we're talking in early June. What do you have coming up in the next little while? Because this episode will probably be out in the next month or so that you're pretty excited about.
Well, I do have a couple short publications coming out, some short stories, poems that are coming out. I am right now working behind the scenes, so it's been a bit quiet on the publishing front,
Right.
but I'm working on expanding and editing all the books that I wrote last year,
Ah,
and sending some of them out once I finish. So as soon as I finish with the book, I have been sending them out. So, like maybe next year, you might see some of these hitting the shelves.
cool, cool. And then how do you decide? Because you know how to do it all. So how do you decide, oh, this is perfect, and then this is perfect for this publisher? I mean, there's got to be research involved, and oh, this publisher likes this kind of stuff, and they're currently looking, and here's the submission window or whatever it is. How do you decide that versus saying, okay, this one I think I'm gonna DIY this one.
Yeah, a lot of it's research. A lot of it is, I guess, just experience with publishing. So, as you might know from having written multiple books yourself, there are books that you absolutely love and you think are wonderful and fantastic, and there are books that you're like, yes, I wrote this. Like they're okay.
Yeah,
So not all books are created equal.
yeah.
And as you said, there are some genres that you like better, and you want to go further and have a wider audience. So some books I'm happy to put out there and see if people like them. Others I'm like, no, this is one that I think will go far. So I want to take extra care with it.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then you also mentioned before we started the interview, the official interview, you'd mentioned that you loved helping writers. So is that an additional thing that you do?
Yes, I love to mentor writers. I've been a writing coach. It's just there's something about the joy of being able to share your story. And so many of us have been working on our writing for so long, way before we get published.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. And as you mentioned, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of rejections in our background before we ever see success. So being able to help, first of all, finding an amazing author and an amazing story, and then being able to help them to publication, help them to win awards, help them to become a best-selling author, like that is such an amazing feeling. It's like being a parent.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I watched you grow up. And I love that. And this is something I do. I mean, obviously on my own time, but there are a number of authors that I have ushered into this wonderful world of publishing,
Yeah.
and I'm so proud of them, and I'm so thankful that I was part of their journey.
Oh, that's awesome. So what advice would you give to authors listening to this, whether maybe they're just getting into it or they're just beginning or potentially they're already on their journey? Any sort of favorite advice that you'll love to dole out?
Well, the first is the simplest, and it's just right. Even if you don't think you're an author, even if you don't think your story is worth telling, it is. It is worth telling. Just write it down. And again, the first draft is never the final draft. So if you write it down and you're like, "Oh, this is terrible," like I didn't really convey what I wanted to convey, that's okay. Like editing is where you will get the true gem of the story. And you don't always do that yourself. Like I do a lot of self-editing because I have been an editor, and I have that experience, but writers groups and online groups and beta readers, like they will all help you hone your words into the story you want to tell. So I think every person has a story to tell. Write yours down and let it go as far as you want it to go.
Oh, that's fantastic. Allison, where can my listeners find out more about you if they want to check out Allison McBain?
Well, my website is AlisonMcBain.com. I try to make it easy.
Nice and easy.
That's Allison with one L. And that has information how to find me on socials, how to email me if you want to ask any advice, and also links to my author versus AI project. One thing I did during my project was I did read excerpts from all of the novels that I had been writing as I
Oh,
wrote them. So if you want to get a taste of the different kinds of stories that I was writing, and you will hopefully soon see in print, you can go to my website and pick out your favorites and let me know, because I have a lot of books to edit and I'm doing them sort of in my own order. But if there's one you really want to see, let me know and I will work on that one next and send that one out for publication.
oh, thank you. And we'll have links to Alison's website as well as the author versus AI project over at starkreflections.ca. Alison, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was wonderful to chat with you.
So, just a few things I wanted to reflect on from the interview. The first thing is the key to writing as many books as she did, which is just, for me, seems to be an overwhelming task, but it was preparation. And that pre-work in doing an outline, character sketches, etc., and how it helped her save her time in the actual writing. And it's so funny, when I hear that she did this, I think, oh, that's so hard, how I could never do that. And I realize that is how I have written most of my nonfiction books. Now, my fiction books, I tend to. I've written with, like, by dedicating the time, etc. Probably in about a month, I can get a fiction novel completed, and I've done that even on the timelines, particularly when I was co-authoring with Julie, and we had, because she's very organized and project management style and wants to keep things tight, going by that schedule. It was roughly a month of the first draft of that book. But when it comes to my nonfiction books, I realize I do a lot of research for months. I gather the ghost stories, etc., or the trivia about the movie or TV show I'm working on. And then the actual writing itself is usually done within 5 to 7 days. So that's sort of backing up Alison's advice of having all that pre-work done, the outline, the character, all the details she needed, so that when she actually sits down to write, she can actually get it written, because she knows where she's going, she knows what she wants to do. So, as overwhelming as it sounds, I recognize that I've done that for some of my own projects. So there. I just thought of that as I was talking just now. I didn't realize that when I'd made the note of what I wanted to talk about. Now, the other thing is that importance of compartmentalization, even within your writing. So she sets chunks of time for specific tasks. But the key to that, like, so you have that, and you know that on this day at this time, or in this segment, I'm going to work on this type of thing. Like, I'm going to do the correspondence, or I'm going to do the marketing, or the research, or the actual writing. But remaining flexible, because sometimes things happen, and the flexibility is an important aspect. So yes, planning things out, but being flexible, just like having an outline, and it's okay to deviate from that outline. The other thing was that the separation, so having that home office that's just a different space. And I think the important thing is that separation and the ritual of walking to the office. I mean, even if the office is just 30 feet away. So when I think about that, I want to ask you, how can you do that in your own rituals? Even if you don't have that space, is there a ritualized thing you can do? Like turning a sign, like Liz had put up a sign on my door and it says the writer is, and then you could put the writer is in, the writer is out, the writer is busy, and change it up like that. It's just that matter of, like, flipping the sign open to close, that kind of thing. And I remember, in the early 90s, I remember there was the ritual I had. I would get up early. I would put on, well, a lot of that is get up early, put on the coffee, and get started. But there were certain things that were ritualized moments, even though it was, I had, I was roommates in university or in post-university. And, I had one room in the house that was my bedroom. That was my office. That even had a TV in there for when I just wanted private time to watch my own shows. And so the ritualization was where I put my coffee cup the pen holder and stuff like that. And in my poem, The Sound of One Man Screaming, which appears in One Hand Screaming, I wrote it for that book. It was a little bit about the daily ritual that I'd set back in the 90s for my writing. So I recognize I've long been using ritual in my writing, even when I don't go to it. Well, now I have a separate space. Now, I've had for a long time, I've had a separate room that was my writing, but this is my writing room, but it's also my working room, right? This is where I work from home. This is where I even have a TV and a chair. I can sit there in the chair and read. I can sit there and actually, and I've been watching, because I'm researching stuff for books as well, watching stuff on that TV, as well as just relaxing and sometimes having my lunch there. And then the final thing I wanted to reflect on was when Alison talked about the joy of helping other writers and how it sometimes can feel like being a parent as you watch these writers grow and succeed. And that really hit home, because I do a lot of one-on-ones with writers, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of writers, and I've just recently had a new batch of people who've come in from a talk I recently gave, who, with 20 minutes, half an hour with them, and then a lot of the more hour-long one-on-one consultations I've done. It's really fun. Like, most of the authors I do my consultations with are one and done. They come in, they do the free half-hour consultation, and I'm so happy I can help them. But it's really cool when I can, either stay in touch or have other conversations with them to see how much they've grown and how much they've learned. It was kind of funny because Johnny B. Truant and I have been friends for a long time, but we now meet on a regular basis, just sort of like a one-on-one mastermind kind of thing, just to keep each other accountable for stuff. But for a while, he was using me as a consultant and picking my brain about different things. And that's when I started to talk to him about doing more in-person events and some of the stuff, because he has a great charisma and he's really good with people. He's sort of an omnivert, and I knew he'd be good at that. And so I advised him to do a lot of those in-person events. And it's so fantastic to see him knocking it out of the park and just loving it, loving his life, and making way more money from those in-person events than he's recently been making online, which is really cool and really awesome to see. So that joy of helping writers, that feeling of pride, that feeling of community, that feeling of giving back, is just so powerful and so important. It's why I will continue to do those consultations, and I love giving my time to other writers. And it's one of the reasons I love this podcast, because I do get the feedback and I do get the feeling that folks find it helpful, not only to have that voice of somebody who's always asking them to reflect and think about things and learn things about the industry as I'm learning things about the industry, but just that there's a voice out there that reminds them that they're not alone. You are not alone. I'm here. We're here together. We're in this. Thanks for being here. And because you make it worthwhile. You listening makes this incredible amount of work I have to do every week so worthwhile. So I appreciate you being there. And that, as I roll up that reflection, I roll my thanks to you for listening to this podcast into it. If you want to give back to the podcast, leave comments, leave your own reflections. That's just a reminder of the cool things that you're listening to and learning and thinking about and reflecting on as you're listening to my great guests like Alison. You can also leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. That is an incredible help. And having, not just reviews from, because, I've been going for 8 years, not just having reviews from, the first year that it came out or 3 years into it, but having more recent reviews is also important too, as authors know. But also sharing the podcast with somebody that you think would find value in it, like sharing this episode with a friend. You say, hey, I want you to hear what Alison has to say about this, and Mark has a pretty cool reflection, or I disagree and I want you to listen to this. It's okay. If you think someone's going to find value in it for whatever reason, do share that, because that's also really valuable to me and potentially to the person you share it with. And maybe it's valuable to you because you get that joy of helping other writers. But again, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Until next week, and until next episode, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you great writing and good Stark Reflections.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.